Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial, and today we've got episode 6 in our Watch It Wednesday series, where we're going through some footage we had on VHS that's been copied over to digital that shows the ship, we believe in 1999, when the Navy was getting ready to turn it over to the state. So it's more or less a survey of every compartment on board and the condition of it at that time. So it's been very interesting for us over these past month and a half, past 6 weeks, to go through and look at these videos. This is the first time I'm seeing any of this footage, so you're watching it live with me. And we're checking out the condition of the ship, seeing what was there, seeing it's letting us know what the museum has changed versus how the ship looked when we first got her. And today we are filming in one of the former warrant officer staterooms. Most of the warrant officer staterooms got converted into offices during the end of the ship's career, but this one seems to have been left in its World War II configuration. It's even still got that institutional green paint job that we've talked about in some of our other videos. So, if this is the first one of these you're checking out, there's a link in the description to the playlist with the other videos in this series. It doesn't really matter what the order you go through them in. They tend to jump around in hard cut. If you get motion sick, this is like Blair Witch Project style, somebody with a camera on their shoulder walking around the ship. And if you thought some of the stuff we film on board is bad, you'll appreciate our channel a lot more after seeing this 1999 footage. So, in the last episode, we had done the superstructure and much of second deck. This one, just looking at our first screen here, it looks like we're going to be jumping down into the bilges, and maybe we'll see some engineering spaces. So, excited to get into that. We're going to watch about 15 minutes of this, and then you'll have to wait till next Wednesday for the next video. All right, so we are in the base of one of the engine rooms down here. There is a propeller shaft overhead. We're way down in the bilges. That might be paint or insulation chips down there in the bilges. Let's see. You can see there's an empty bracket where some equipment's been removed, but most of the stuff is down there. So now we have hard cut into an upper level of a boiler room. And now we're back in an engine room. There's a throttle board. We're now in the upper level of one of the engine rooms. This is engine room 3 with main control. That's the backup evaporator. So there's your throttles and your low pressure turbine. And your high pressure turbine. And your gear reduction box is what we're looking at here. And we've just hard cut over to the other side of the room. These are the ship service turbo generators on the left, and we're looking at the electrical board in front of us. Here's between the two SSTGs. All your breakers and switchboards. There's one of the propeller shafts. Shore power is coming in through this panel on the right. Now we're down in the base looking at the bottom of the gear reduction box, the foundations for it. There's a condenser for a turbo generator. Condenser for the main turbines. Sea chest valve. Fuel oil transfer valve, probably. Notice that yellow grating that was briefly over the condenser? That's to air it out, but also so that you can't climb in there. A lot of voids have that sort of yellow grating put on as part of the mothballing process, and we still have them today. It's better to ventilate those spaces than leave them sealed up. Here's that propeller shaft and going down into the bilges. I think this is number 2 propeller shaft, or excuse me, number 4 propeller shaft from number 2 engine room. I'm glad Libby doesn't jump around like this when she's filming. Looking at a propeller shaft as it goes through the bulkhead there, through a gland seal. There's some of the dehumidification tubing, which is blocking a lot of the view of the rest of the space. As this guy rocks back and forth, the ship is not moving. He must be drunk. We should be up in a boiler room again at this point, the upper level. I love those double takes where he starts to pan and then cuts back very quickly. That's not disorienting at all. Looking in the steam drum there for one of the boilers. And now looking back at the steam drum and now going back the direction he was headed. So most of the boiler rooms have these little areas up at the top with some storage and a desk. There's room for some halon gas that would have been part of the firefighting system that was added in the 80s. As you go towards the back of the space, there's a plenum back there, which was that big opening in the deck. It's where you draw air into the boiler. It's like sucking a vacuum. I'm pretty sure this is boiler room number 3, based on some of the sailor art I'm seeing. Some dehumidification tubing there. Heading aft towards the back end of the boilers. There's the exhaust going up. And we've hard cut again. Where are we now? Oh, we're on the other side of the boiler looking at that exhaust. There's the water tubes for the boiler. Heading towards the forward end of the compartment. Yeah, this is boiler room number 3. That sailor art is still pretty much intact despite us not doing any maintenance on it in the last 20 years. Got another Bigfoot sighting here. The original builder's plaques for BB 61, 62, which must have been cast before they even authorized 63, 64, 65, and 66 over the next 2 years. Alright. There's a propeller shaft. We've hard cut down somewhere again. Grating over the bilges. Where are we? Look up so I can see where we are. Yeah, so we're in the base of the fire room underneath of the boilers right now. Got some pumps down there. That'll be looking aft towards the next engine room. The blue column in the center of the room is the water being pumped from the condensers back up into the deaerating feed tank. That's roughly center line. Here we are under a shaft. There's a sink under many of the shafts on the ship. It just drains directly into the bilge. These bilges in service would be constantly wet with oil, water, you name it. But everywhere they've pointed the camera at the bilge that it isn't god-awful blurry, they look dry, which is still the case today. There was a brief shot of the holding bulkhead at the outside outboard edge of the space. Now we're back up above at the steam drum. Not sure why it cuts back and forth between upper and lower levels. Another desk. Box of spare parts. That is boiler room number 3 as well. That box of parts is still there. That's a lot of the fuel nozzles that have been removed. Notice that green wooden box. Those are put over the 1MCs because they're so loud in the engineering spaces. But with the ship decommissioned and the engine's not running, you don't need them that loud. So they're trying to muffle it a little bit with those plywood boxes. We still have some of them laying around. Okay, so we can see the condition of the grating right now. I guess it's good to know that that's in good shape. There's some EEBD racks, emergency escape breathing device, excuse me. Those are all over the ship. Look like Kleenex boxes. You got a scuttlebutt or water fountain. There's that water tube for the deaerating feed tank. There's a pump for oil. Number 2 main feed pump, number 1 main feed pump. So we must be in fire room number 1 at this point, at the lower level. The main feed pumps are steam powered, so there will be electrically powered auxiliaries there to help get the system started before you get steam pressure up. Remember your color coding. Blue is fresh water or boiler feed water in this case. Green will be salt water used for cooling. Yellow is your fuel oil. There we are looking outboard at the shell plating. Excuse me, the holding bulkhead. The shell plating is 22 feet away from that with 3 other layers of steel in between you. The shell plating would be the outside skin of the ship. The holding bulkhead is the interior skin inside the living part of the ship. Look at all that wiring on that outside bulkhead. Here we are at the, jumped away already. Some more boxes of spare parts. Not really spare parts. The parts that were removed from these often got put in those crates around the room. Looks like we're on the upper level of the fire room now. Another steam drum open for ventilation. Heading inboard towards Broadway. Now we're going around the backside of a boiler again. Some ventilation ducting, up close and personal. So having seen most of the living and working spaces on second deck and up into the superstructure, it was interesting seeing some of the engineering spaces for the first time. And everything there is dry and in good shape. It looked like we saw parts of the number 1 fire and engine room and the number 3 fire and engine room that were identifiable. We might have gotten into two, but I didn't recognize anything from that in this footage. But again, we were doing some weird hard cuts and some close-up shots, so I couldn't really tell which rooms we were in at all times. I don't think we've gotten into any of the auxiliary engineering spaces or even engine room number 4. So that might be here in a future video. What do you think about the condition of the ship you're seeing? You notice it's a lot darker than if you visited us or other museum ships today. That's because when the ships are in mothball, they're not required to keep the full lighting on. The contractors have to maintain a certain amount, I can't remember if it's 30% or 50% of the total lighting fixtures, just so they can see their way around. But you notice it's pretty dark. The guy had to have a light on for most of the time, and even then we couldn't see a lot of stuff. Otherwise, there's still a lot of the ship left to see, so be sure to tune in with us on future videos. Every Wednesday for the next couple of weeks, we're going to keep airing this footage. I'm going to be watching it alongside of you for the first time, giving my thoughts. And we'll keep seeing what condition the ship is in. If you've got questions about anything you saw in this video and you want to guarantee that I see them, hop over to my Facebook page. There's a link in the description below. Make sure you go to the page in the link and not to my personal Facebook page, where I won't accept any friend requests if I don't know you. If there's a specific moment here that you have a question about, timestamp it so I can go back and look it up and figure out what we're talking about. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. You can support us through the link in the description below that takes you to the museum's donate page, or by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about the channel and our museum. Thanks for watching.